Hello everyone, I am Laura Alonso Muñoz from Universitat Jaume I of Castelló in Spain, and I'm going to present the communication entitled Disinformation in Spain through digital platforms, topics, effects and mechanisms to fight against fake news, which I have made with my colleague Andreu Casero Ripolles. Disinformation has become one of the most relevant problems in today's democracies. According to data from the latest Eurobarometer published by the European Union for the period 2022 and 2023, 83% of Spanish citizens see disinformation as a problem, 7 points above the European average, which is around 66%. In this context, digital platforms are essential. The open nature of these platforms makes them a preferred space for any user to spread malicious content without restrictions. This exploratory research has the general objective of knowing the characteristics of the phenomenon of disinformation in Spain through different digital platforms. Specifically, we want to analyze the frequency of receiving fake news through WhatsApp and Telegram, Facebook and Twitter, to know the topic of fake news on each platform, to analyze the effects of disinformation in the perception of the Spanish citizens, and finally, we want to study the mechanism preferred by users to combat disinformation on digital platforms. This research is based on a quantitative methodology based on the online survey technique. To do this, an online questionnaire was launched through NetQuest, which 1,050 Spanish citizens respond to. A descriptive analysis is carried out in which 4 variables are studied. The first refers to the frequency with which users have received fake news through platforms such as Telegram or WhatsApp, Facebook and Twitter. This variable is a single response. Subsequently, they were asked about the topics of fake news. 13 topics were presented to users and respondents have to mark how frequently they receive disinformation about those topics. This question is measured with a 5-point Likert scale where 1 is never and 5 very frequently. Some of the topics are COVID-19, vaccination, epidemiological situation of Spain, cures, etc., immigration, climate change, politicians, or the Russian-Ukraine war, for example. The third variable is related to the perception of the effects of disinformation. Respondents had to indicate how much they agree with 8 statements. The response was measured with a 5-point Likert scale, where 1 is strongly disagree and 5 strongly agree. And the last variable refers to the mechanism to combat disinformation. Respondents were asked to measure the reliability of 5 items: reading news in traditional media, verification agencies, media literacy, the creation of laws to penalize its dissemination, and government action plans. The response was measured with a 5-point Likert scale, where 1 is poor reliability and 5 strong reliability. In general, the receipt of false information through digital platforms is very frequent in Spain, especially on Facebook, where approximately 42% of those surveyed acknowledge having received false information through this platform 1 or more times a week and 26% once a month. On Twitter, we also observe a high volume of reception of fake news. 36% of the surveyed acknowledge having received fake news 1 or more times a week and 23% once a month. And finally, we observe that mobile instant messaging services such as WhatsApp or Telegram are the platforms where respondents have received less disinformation. If we focus on the topics of fake news received by citizens, we observe that the topics vary depending on the platform. In this sense, we observe that on WhatsApp and Telegram, the majority of hoaxes received by respondents refer to COVID-19, especially those related to vaccines and the origins of the virus. On Facebook, on the other hand, fake news related to influencers or celebrities, as well as those related to the war between Russia and Ukraine, had a greater presence. And finally, false content about climate change and immigration prevailed on Twitter. Regarding the effects generated by disinformation on citizens, we observe that in general terms, users have a medium-low perception. Therefore, they believe that disinformation has affected them little. If we analyze where this influence occurs, we observe that disinformation has mainly helped them realize that neither social media nor conventional media are sources of reliable information. However, users point out that disinformation has not made them change their perceptions on a political or social level. And we see how it has not influenced the vaccination campaign against COVID-19 either. Finally, the survey recognized that the best formula to combat disinformation is media literacy and verification agencies, such as Maldita. However, the action plan launched by the government to combat the phenomenon of disinformation do not generate confidence in them. As a conclusion, we observe that the reception of disinformation through digital platforms in Spain is very high, especially through Facebook. The topic of fake news are different on each platform. A high volume of hoaxes related to COVID-19 are still shared in memes, although it is not longer considered a public health emergency. On Facebook, the hoaxes are related to celebrities, in addition to the war between Russia and Ukraine. While on Twitter, the most frequent hoaxes are those related to climate change and immigration. This may be because each platform has a different target audience. Respondents have a medium-low perception of the effects that fake news has on their lives. Respondents also acknowledge that receiving this type of content has helped them realize that neither social media nor conventional media are reliable sources of information. However, they do not perceive that fake news has made them change politically or influence them on such controversial issues as COVID-19 vaccination or immigration. In this sense, users consider that the best way to combat disinformation is through media literacy and verification agencies. Despite it being a descriptive study, this research provides some relevant trends that help to better understand how false information is received on digital platforms in Spain. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any question, we are at your disposal.